Hey guys, welcome back to another Skyrim mods video. Today I have just a handful of mods I know you guys will probably like, honestly, but I wanted to say love. As usual, all mods are down in the description and timestamped in the video, so make sure to hit that like button down below and don't forget to endorse mod authors when you get the chance, and let's dive right in. The first mod up today, a new passive skill experience. This mod is called Natural Learning, a passive skill tree. But first to obtain the passives, or at least monitor them, you need to go to Helgen and find the book. You can teleport to grab the book, or another immersive way to obtain the book is buying it from any general goods store like Bellathor's General Goods. This is separate though. The intentional way is to grab the book from Helgen, but to each their own. The book only helps you monitor your passive skills as well. I feel like I need to say that. With this mod installed, the more you use the skill, such as one-handed or block skills, as they level up you will begin to gain new passives that blend into the game because they're not overpowered. And this mod was set up with the book as a way to monitor the skill so it doesn't clutter your active effects menu or just your screen with effects as of current. So the only way to tell if you have the passives unlocked is to check the book. And the best part about this is that it is not a completely separate skill tree that you have to level up, because then that will make it a little tedious. Instead, you literally gain the passive skills as you level up any of the vanilla skill trees, and that is usually by repeated use. And because this mod uses Skypatcher, which is a mod I highly recommend actually, there's an optional file that lets you distribute these passives to NPCs, because in the base mod it is player only, which is what I prefer, but just in case you want to suffer a little bit, because there will be no way to check the NPCs passives unless you check their skill trees, which I don't think you can do in vanilla Skyrim, or you can just do the math and just know what you're getting into. And in case you're asking yourself, yes, this works with all perk overhauls including Ordinator, because it touches none of the vanilla perks. It literally just kind of piggybacks on it, so whenever your skill goes from level 20 to 30, you'll gain the perks dynamically. And even though I put the perk effects on the screen for most of them, I don't expect you guys to read them, but I just wanted to let you know that they are there, just in case you need to know what you're getting yourself into. And a quick side note, just in case you use something like experience and static skill leveling, because you can't level your skills up with that by repeated use, you don't have to worry about it either way, because this works with the level of the skill. So even if you use static skill leveling to level up your skills, you'll still gain the passives, just maybe a little faster than you would in vanilla Skyrim. Up next is the mod Venomancy. You guys kind of recommended I check this mod out, and kind of it took a while, but here we are. And this is basically a complete magic overhaul. Well, not in terms of changing up every other spell in Skyrim, but it adds a completely new category with dozens of spells to complete it, and those being poison and plague spells. And you get the choice. You can either have this mod installed as destruction spells or restoration spells. And because this is the most immersive way for me, I chose restoration. And this mod is massive in scope, adding spells, shouts, items, and even boss encounters that we'll talk about later, with their own unique loot that turn them into Pokemon. And the first part you'll notice is definitely the amount of conjuration spells. There are over 24 conjuration spells, well over 24, I didn't exactly count, but I can definitely tell. Then you conjure pretty much a poison and plague version of every vanilla creature, and even new ones not even in the base game. Usually taking resources from another mod, and some creatures will be stronger than others because of this, and also factoring in the part that there is tiers like spell vanilla tiers featuring spells from novice up to expert, and of course the power increasing with every mastery level. So you'll have spells for continuous damage like spray spells similar to flames, as well as new bound weapons. But what's special about these bound weapons is that they do poison damage over time on hit, which in my opinion definitely makes it better than the normal bound weapons, because if you don't use a mod to make them stronger, they just do damage on hit, which kind of make them a little boring, besides the fact that they look like they're on fire. Honestly, while this spell pack, if I can even shrink it down to calling it that, but while this pack does include everything from weapons to destruction or restoration depending on what you installed, and even bosses, which we haven't gotten to, the biggest part in my opinion is definitely the conjuration, because with this mod you can conjure dozens of creatures and summon tons of bound weapons to overpower enemies with poison. And the best part is that even if you're lacking in just pure damage because you don't have a warrior or you don't prefer to use a party, there's tons of poison effects that you can stack, and some spells even rely on certain enemies already being poisoned with the previous spell before activating the new spell effect that does tons of more damage. Some spells even have a 2-stage effect like this current one that does kind of look grotesque when you first look at it, but it kind of poisons the enemy and does damage over time, and after a while spiders kind of burst from their body. It is definitely disgusting, but it definitely makes it worth it when you consider how much damage you're doing. But of course, besides the grotesque spells, we also have the bosses, which I mentioned a few times before. There are 3 major bosses, but I only showcase 2 here because they are already gross enough and very overpowered. So you definitely want to come prepared for these bosses because they also have their own custom spell. And as I also mentioned before, if you happen to defeat these bosses without closing your game because you died so many times, then you can start to summon them as their own Pokemon, I guess. And I say I guess because you know how when you beat a boss and they're very overpowered, but as soon as you unlock them after beating them, they're kind of just toned down and a little weaker? That's kind of what you get after you beat these bosses, but they're still very worth it in terms of damage and also just because bragging rights. The next mod up, just because I wanted to give this mod author a shout out for making their first mod and it actually being amazing. We have the mod Frost Druid, which you can find in Dragon's Reach balcony inside of a chest based on the description because I used an add item menu, which I do for most armors. But this armor, as you can see and based on the title unless you missed it, is a unisex frost based druid armor. Fully standalone, not replacing anything, but I do think it would make a great stall room replacer. But this armor also comes with a few accessory parts and a few weapons like the Warhammer, which has no special name, it's just simply called Warhammer. But then you have the Frost Lord staff, which was probably obvious by the name. Either way, moving on. This mod also comes with its own new custom spell that summons a new ice steed that does use the same animations as a horse, so you don't have to worry about anything weird happening when riding it. The weirdest part about the horse is that it has no joints, or flesh, or muscles. It's just a floating pile of ice, but I guess magic is a thing in Skyrim, so I guess it makes sense in terms of fantasy. But it is freaky for me to look at, but also a little cool. The mod author does have another armor I wanted to showcase here, but maybe in another video when I have more time. This is just because I really like the armor and the armor that this mod author is currently in the making of. And it's just one of their first ones, with the Owl Druid being the other one that I highly recommend. And finally up next, we have the mod Smooth Moveset, but with Open Animation Replacer, pretty much eliminating all incompatibilities. Well, almost. But either way, this mod adds in tons of new animations like combat idle, non-combat idle, the move stop, draw, and also transitions based on conditions. That is directly from the mod page, so now I'll explain it in my own terms. This mod makes your idle dynamic depending on the situation you are in, such as if you lock onto a target, you will go into a battle ready stance, but if you unlock from an enemy, you'll go back to the normal idle, and this is whether you're in combat or not. There's also the change where if an enemy is ready to start attacking you, you will go into a combat stance until the combat is over with. But this mod does so much more, like especially including new movement animations, previously only available on the Patreon, which I paid for. But it is very cheap, and honestly, Smooth is one of the patrons I would honestly recommend to people. But moving on, these new idle animations are unique to every weapon type in Skyrim, even the pikes from Animated Armory. But of course, you do need the attack animations to go with them, or they might look a little out of place. And yes, the attack animations I use is For Honor Animations, also by Smooth, and it is the patron version. But that was pretty much it for today, guys. Let me know what you thought about this selection of mods. And like I said, the one before the Smooth Animations was just a shout out to that mod author for doing a great job. But I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace and love, guys.